Hey everyone, this is Rahul with the Alternative Investors Hangout, and today we have a returning guest. He is Andy Hoffman from Miles Franklin. Thanks for coming on again, Andy.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, I know a lot of people listening to this right now are going to ask, what on earth is going on with the gold and silver market? And before you respond, what I think is going on, obviously we know it's manipulated, but it just seems that sophisticated investors are realizing we're going to go over the fiscal cliff based on what I've just noticed. I don't know if you noticed that John Boehner had to cancel a vote on taxes just now.
I didn't even realize. Actually, it comes to mind that, yes, they were going to vote tonight. But, I mean, who cares anyway? Because they were voting symbolically because the Democrats won't pass what they vote. And, you know, if they think that just by passing something that it's going to, like, give them points, it's kind of a joke.
Exactly. And then I was looking also at Apple's stock, and it's just been crashing as late as well. So based on looking at all the gold market, and if you want to look at Apple stock as an indicator, it just seems that we're going to go over the fiscal cliff, taxes are going to go up, spending cuts are going to happen, even though that's a joke. But it just seems that there's going to be short-term downtrend in the price of gold. How do you see it?
Well, I disagree with the last part entirely, but you can disagree or agree with my reasons. Now, Apple, which I call the surrogate PPT because it's 20% of the NASDAQ, and because there's so many algorithms attached to it, the PPT, the powers that be, have ran it up. I mean, they've been able to use it as a way to help the markets go up this year. Now, I mean, I saw this incredible chart. I posted in a rant the other day showing how Apple and the market literally were tick for tick for the entire year until Apple had its big drop a few weeks ago. And all of a sudden, they break apart because the government is not using that stock anymore now that it's going down. And I don't know that it's going down because of the economy or because it's multiple or because Samsung's catching up. But look, I mean, I don't care how good a company is. $700 billion market cap is a lot of money, and it's hard to believe that a gadget company became the largest company in the world. But all things aside, what's going on in the gold market? Okay, it's really two questions: what's going on in the physical market and what's going on in the paper market. Now, everyone on this call who's listened, who owns precious metals knows that last year the cartel did the exact same thing. It started mid-December and it bottomed literally on December 30th or so. And you know, now that the world is in such more dire shape than it's ever been, they need to attack harder than they've ever done before. And they recognize, these are financial guys, that the way to take out the Wall Street money is to attack them at year end, because Wall Street portfolio managers can only own paper gold. They can't own physical gold and silver. They can own mining stocks and they can own GLD. So by attacking at year end, just when the hedge funds are going to be redeeming, not only is it kind of demoralizing for everyone that owns it, but they get redemptions. John Paulson, you know, I mean, I consider him a criminal because of what he did with Goldman Sachs, but just a year ago, he was considered the best hedge fund manager in the world. He's having redemptions left and right. He may lose his fund entirely, and all because of GLD and mining stocks. So, you know, as far as what's going in the paper market, I've never seen anything like this in my 10 years in the market, in the precious metals. They are attacking. They have to protect. Look, they just announced QE3, QE4, the fiscal cliff, the debt ceiling. We just elected a socialist. You know, I mean, all these things, they obviously are fighting so that the perception is not these things are gold bullish. And of course, it's the year end. So in the paper market, we have seen things like today and Tuesday like I've never seen before in my life. That said, the physical market is entirely different. I am telling everyone listening, Miles Franklin, in the 8 days since QE4, in which gold has fallen $80 or $90 and silver's fallen $3 or $4, have been our best 8 days of the year. We are having soaring physical demand, including for myself, who bought this morning as well. So anyone who believes that there's anyone on earth that's actually selling real stuff, I mean, they got another thing coming. We are going to see at some point, if they try to push it any harder, the kind of reaction we saw in 2008 when we ran out of supply.
Speaking of running out of supply, I got a YouTube question. It's from High and Wired. and it's regarding this topic. He says, "Hey Andy, I know that you're in the precious metal business. Recently there have been rumors that we're running out of physical silver very quickly. Considering the story about the U.S. Mint stopping the production of silver eagles until January 7th, do you think it's likely that the RCM will announce something similar with the silver maple before January 7th?
Look, there's a lot of talk about that, but you know what? It's not the first time this has happened. There's a typical year-end. They run out of supply, they run out of blanks. They had planned X amount, and again, you have had a big surge in buying since Obama was elected. There was a lot of people waiting to see what would happen, and when the country said we are going to go full bore with socialism, there's been a lot of buying. So yeah, there's been a lull. They decided, why don't we just end it now and start next year? But if you look at the mint sales every year, January tends to be the biggest month always because of this pent up demand. They stop it and start it. So there is a lot of theory out there about why, but frankly, I'm not going to put too much into it. That said, what I just said before, by taking the price down.
Yeah, we just got cut off there, but basically, you think that there may be some pent-up demand in January? I think that's where you left off, or there may not be.
Yes, January typically is the biggest selling month of the year. The pent-up demand is because at some point they cut off the sales, so people give orders, and therefore they get exercised in January. So I'm not trying to say that demand in January is any more, only kind of from an accounting standpoint, you see more sales in January than every year. My point is that I don't have any evidence to believe conspiracy that they stopped them for a reason. There are some people out there who believe there's a reason. I don't think there's enough evidence out there for me to make a conclusion as to what exactly is going on. But I do know, as I said before, that we are having huge demand at Miles Franklin in the past 8 days. Literally, I mean, QE4 was announced on the 12th of December, and since then we've had massive demand. And the smashdown started 8 hours later when they did that, what I call the post QE4 abomination, which they did in the middle of the night.
Yes, indeed. And I did want to comment before we got cut off last time, and I don't think Obama's a socialist, he's more of a fascist. But moving forward, I wanted to get into this discussion of Japan. The Japanese, in my opinion, are going insane right now with the new leader. He's going to not have any budget whatsoever. They may have QE, I think, 11 there right now.
10.
They're on 10, but they could go to 11, according to what I read on Zero Hedge. And then, on top of it, they want to weaken the yen. So what are your thoughts about that?
Right. Well, I've spoken a lot about Japan in the past, and they have a combination of the Fukushima disaster. They have the worst demographics on earth. They've lost a lot of their manufacturing base to China, and on top of that, they're amidst this horrible recession. Now, the guy who just got elected prime minister, Shinzo Abe, people don't realize he was the prime minister in 06 and 07. They've actually, I believe that Japan has had 7 prime ministers in the past 7 years and 10 finance ministers. That's how screwed up that nation is. And as you say, they've been doing QE since 1989. In fact, the reason that their economy fell apart in 1989, meaning 10 years before ours did, is because their population is 10 years older. Meaning they've made all the same mistakes. They just happen to have done them 10 years earlier. And they. You
mean 1999?
No, their stock market and real estate.
Yeah, in the 80s, I got that, but QE
peaked in 1989, and ours peaked in 2000. And it's not a coincidence that their age of their population is 10 years older than ours. So they've made all the same mistakes, and they're kind of the blueprint of what we're doing wrong. They've gotten to such a bad point, especially now that their population is so old that they need to take money out of the system instead of put it in, that the QE is only going to expand. And they've now done QE 8 and 9 and 10 in the past 3 months. 10 was announced today. And this guy who's just been elected, as you say, he just immediately kind of passed a law that they have no budget. Like, as you say, like we have the fiscal cliff, well, they're going the other direction. So my personal opinion is that Japan, it's already gone from the second manufacturing power to the third. I think it's going to be somewhere around the 5th or the 6th come 10 or 20 years from now.
So are they going to experience the currency crisis first then?
It's hard to understand them because, again, they have had a lot of savings in the nation because of all those years of manufacturing dominance and a culture that's a lot more, that's A, that's older, and B, that's more thrifty. So they have had savings. So it's hard to tell if they're going to go into the same kind of morass that we're in, meaning with inflation. But again, I get calls all the time from, people asking about this deflation in Japan, which I think is one of the biggest myths of all time. Japan, Tokyo is literally known as the most expensive city on earth. So again, they have some things that, things that you want in life that go down in price, but anything that you need to live on is going up exponentially. And don't forget, because of Fukushima, their energy costs are exploding because they have all of their their nuclear reactors down. So I think it's hard to tell exactly what will happen in Japan compared to the United States. But I call it the land of the setting sun for a reason. I really, really think that Japan has peaked and will never return to its glory.
All right. That being said, what do you think is going to happen now, timetable for the United States, starting next year? We go over the cliff. They're going to raise the debt ceiling, which is going to be a debacle again, like 2010 or 11.
11.
I think, yeah, 11, my bad. So if we have that type of scenario, we get another downgrade. So are they going to just have QE5 then? Is just the dollar going to fall off the edge of a cliff? I don't think it's going to happen next year. I think a few more years, if we continue to do this, we're in deep, deep trouble. Your thoughts?
Well, look, it's not like people don't know they've raised the debt ceiling. If you look at the debt clock, it's literally, probably as we speak, it's hitting 16.394 trillion because it was just about there when I looked at it a few hours ago. So it's not like the quote market is wondering if they'll raise it. Of course they'll raise it because they're there already. They have to raise it. So I'm not sure that it's going to be a surprise. As far as this fiscal cliff thing, anyone who knows the facts or reads what I'm talking about, there's no such thing as the fiscal cliff. Whether they make a deal that makes it less so than it currently is, there's still going to be a massive, massive deficit next year, and the economy's only going to get worse, and we're going to have Obamacare that's going to start. And then, of course, there's, QE3 and QE4, and as you say, there's going to be, like Japan, there'll be QE5, 6, 7, because, again, it's a Ponzi scheme. The only way to keep the game going is to keep printing money. So when you ask, when will the United States succumb? Look, I think it will be the last to succumb because it's the world reserve currency, but it's hard to believe that the weaker links like Greece and Italy and all these guys are going to survive another year without major, major crises starting. And when they do, as you recall, in 2008 and in 2011, it's global. It'll spread. So I'm not trying to pick a time or a date. It's just the situation has gotten so dire. It's just hard to believe that something major is not going to give next year.
All right. I wanted to get back into this other topic. You're talking about supply problems going all around these dealers, and you work for dealers. So what will happen then if you have a 2008 scenario? We didn't have a Comex default in 2008, but do you think that there could be a Comex default this time around, or the derivatives market could blow up in some way, shape, or form? Your thoughts?
Well, all of these things are potential. Ultimately, they all have to blow up because they're all frauds and they're all at the end of their life. It's just a matter of how things will play out. Now, remember, in 2008, as I've said before, the industry completely ran out. And out of silver, you had to wait months and months in advance because there was no silver. And even for gold, you had major, major shortages. Silver, the paper price fell as low as $8 or $9 an ounce in 2008, but the physical price never fell lower than 15 or 16. Now, they were able to revive the system with the massive, massive money printing, the TARP and all those things and the secret loans. But, it's pretty clear if we get to that point again, that ammo's been expended. They're going to have to announce, the kind of QE5, 6, 7 things that kind of blow up the system if we get to that point. So, and if you're talking about the Comex, well, the Comex has no gold or silver, or certainly not what they say they have, and certainly not enough to support all the buying that you get without all the naked shorting. that comes in every day. And, at some point it's going to give. In fact, I wrote today in my rant, I got some great information from Jim Willie. He was showing how in the Shanghai exchange now, you're seeing major premiums, like $50 an ounce in gold between their paper contract and the Comex contract. So it's getting to the point where it's kind of getting exposed. And if you have a major event where, it's hard for me to believe that these criminal paper exchanges are going to last much longer. But again, I can't predict exactly how things will happen, only that it's inevitable that if you're going to keep trying to short paper that's not backed, that eventually you're going to get called on it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And before I let you go, Andy, how can people follow your work and do business with Miles Franklin?
Right, milesfranklin.com, or you can email me at ahoffman at Miles Franklin, or 800-822-8080. And remember, we're in business to educate people. So please call me or email me or our brokers and just ask questions. It's a very, very simple business once you get around the stigma that there's something complex about it.
All right. Thanks for coming on again, Andy.
You're very welcome.